Is it possible to have a moral theory in which you put yourself first, as contrasted to utilitarianism, which is altruistic, you put other people first? Is it possible to have a theory where you put yourself first and then the other person? This is called ethical egoism. I said that ethics is about self-governance, where you are going to decide what to do. You're going to develop these principles. Everything I've said so far points to one thing, well, many things, but one big thing too. All right. And that is what? It's knowledge, it's training, it's practice. If you think you're born and you're good, this is the concept of being born a dog, an animal. Okay. But the animal then is conditioned by the environment. We do not judge a dog as a moral agent. If they're bad, their owners conditioned a certain way, or they're behaving a certain way because as they had to survive. We don't see them as moral agents such that they can choose to act one way or the other. They do choose in their own ways, but it's environmentally driven. Also, they have the instinct for food and mating and things of that nature. So if you want to conceive of a human to be straight up animal, then that's okay. Then there is no morality. You could describe it as psychological egoism or psychological hedonism. Okay, that's not morality. It's about self-governance. And if you understand self-governance, you see each of the theories presents you with different ways of learning to govern yourself. All right, and and in that sense, they have a unifying theme. Ethical egoism is doing the same sort of thing. There is no author of this theory. Socrates discussed it. It's often treated as ethical selfishness. People interpret the concept of egoism as selfishness, but that is not the meaning of egoism. Egoism is like self-motivated or driven. Okay, it is putting your interests first before you're looking at others. So let me give you the construct of this theory. The first thing here, it begins with the idea of consciousness. To be a conscious being doesn't mean you're selfish. I can say a dog is conscious. It's aware of the environment. It's aware how to forage for food. A dog is conscious. Animals are conscious. I can argue for that. Is the dog selfish? Is self-aware? No, not necessarily. No, I've seen dogs sharing and things like that. Right? Sharing, believe it or not. So when people attack this theory, they say that consciousness means selfishness. And that is not true. You could be consciously aware of being selfish. You could be consciously aware of putting others first. And that is that's your choice. These people deny free will. Right? Just because your consciousness, they think that they somehow conflate that with free will. No, free will is still independent. If that is the case, we have the grounds of promoting a different type of moral theory. All right. John Stuart Mill argued that we could look at the impact using consequentialism. We could look at the effects of the act on the majority of people to determine the rightness and wrongness of the act. And that's what this statement in front of you is saying right now. Common sense tells that true morality benefits people. We engage in morality because people are benefiting from others acting right. As the Egoism says this, if that is true, and it is true, all right, then the true moral act must also benefit the moral agent. If Fred is doing good things and people, oh, yes, this feels good. I like being around Fred. You know, he's honest, he's trustworthy, thing like that, right? Suppose every time Fred does something morally good that people are praising him for, he's hurting himself in some way, financially, physically, emotionally, psychologically, he's hurting himself. Fred is a human being just like everyone else around him. Do you think he will continue in this pursuit? The answer is no. That's not a human trait. So if Mill is correct, then the backdoor operation, ethical egoism, is equally correct. So that when the person is putting others first, okay, and not forgetting themselves, they also benefit from that situation. It may not be the priority. Ethical egoism switches the coin and say, hey, I'm gonna make myself the priority. Okay. I'm gonna be pursuing my own good. while I am actually supporting others, okay? Not in a disadvantaged way, okay? I'm gonna be fair, right? So let's go a little further. This is the first construct of understanding this theory. An act is regarded as morally right. It promotes an agent's genuine self-interest. And this word genuine is the weakness of it all, or strength of it. Promote because this is induction. You're looking at the future, all right? Like you have a friend. You think that person is a good friend. They really, it's in your genuine self-interest to maintain that friendship. If that's the case, then you're not going to steal from them, lie behind their back, and do all kind of things to destroy their social reputation. You're not going to do those kind of things because you think it's in your genuine self-interest. Okay. Um, this theory asks, what is genuine? Genuine means long term. Okay. And the minimum is means the long term, not the immediate self-interest, but the long term. In the long, it's for your lifespan and beyond if you're a mystic as well. Okay. The long, if when you do that, all of a sudden it makes a difference. Let's say you are a good thief, okay, and you met someone you really like, okay, and you say you know you can steal from the person and get away with it, but in the long run, is that what you want? A friendship such that you're always looking at a person with a straight up lie. I didn't steal your stuff. And in the long run, aren't you risking losing that friendship? Because a lot of people are in jail nowadays who thought they were they could never get caught, right? So this word genuine is what's going on here. The fact is, we may sometimes don't always know what's not genuine self-interest, okay? To the degree that you understand that, this theory works very, very well. It's a very practical theory, okay? Um, let's go a little further to see some of the problems. Here are some of the problems that emerges from fully articulating this theory. Ethical egoist is a follower of ethical egoism, believing you can get to morality by putting yourself first without forgetting the other person. Does not indulge in selfishness. Selfishness, clearly defined, is when you put yourself first and you forget about the other person. Okay, we're supposed to be sharing pizza. I get to the place first. I eat it all myself. I'm not trying to harm you. I just think about my own desires. Okay, selfishness is not egoism. Egoism, put yourself first, and you don't forget about the other person. You put yourself first, then you take care of your friend. You take care of your family. You take care of your company. Like if you're a corporate executive, you can operate as an egoist. You make sure you're getting your profit, then you take care of your employees. You don't really overwork them without paying them their due compensation. That means you take some limitations on your profit. Okay. Altruism is you put others first, and ethical egos see themselves first. They're not gonna put others first. Altruism is not bad. That's why John Stuart Mill's work. You put others first without forgetting yourself. That's how Mill's theory work from altruism. This theory work from egoism. Okay, putting yourself first, the next person last. Also putting the other person first and yourself last. Selflessness, okay, is the misinterpretation of Mill's theory. You put others first and you forget about your own interests. You bought a pizza for everyone. Your friend wanted more. You just give away your own pizza, so you don't even enjoy the pizza at all. That is not utilitarianism. Okay, if you're sacrificing your own interest for others, you're not being utilitarianist. And an ethical egoist will never do that. They're not going to sacrifice their own interests. They make sure they take care of home. They take care of themselves, but they don't forget they're not selfish to other people that's connected with them. Okay, they're not selfish. They don't take care of that. All right. So when you put yourself in the forefront and you see where you're going, this theory still works. There is a weakness, okay, and the weakness may be it takes a certain level of character or certain internal strength to not be selfish. Like if you're a corporate exec, you know that if you shortchange the employees and pay them less, you can have a bigger profit. Okay. But in that moment, this is what the theory is saying. You should not do that. Okay. In fact, in corporations, ethical egoism is the theory they're supposed to be using. It's the theory they actually use in America. In other countries, that socialistic countries, will probably use more utilitarianism. Here, it's about the individual. if you accept this dichotomy, these definitions, all right, you'd have a theory that look like this. Okay. Well, actually, more explanation of the selfishness is a real problem. And as an egoist is not an egotist. Egotist means someone who is selfish, a selfish person, one who has the character trait of being selfish, like Aristotle would describe it. Okay. Egotism is the view that we are all selfish. I can admit that we can all act selfish. And if we act selfish again and again and again, we become a selfish person. Now we're an egotist. It's not the case that we are born selfish, like psychological egoism suggests earlier. Remember, psychological egoism. It really should be psychological egotism. Okay, but the word came down like this, so I'm going to keep using like that. Okay, psychological egoism is the way the idea that you're born selfish. So a psychological egoist, you are biologically, neurologically prone to be selfish. It's not a choice. You cannot help yourself. We don't believe that. Some people do. And when we look at the philosophy, look at the definition, you must understand that some people argue like that. People are born that way, right? So when you are being an ethical egoist, you must be very careful about this idea of selfishness, what's counted as fairness, and things of that nature. And since ethical egoists looking at free will, they reject psychological egoism, and they do not appeal to egotism as well, because they're saying, no, I can put myself first while making sure I'm fair to the other person. If you can go through the struggle of ethical egoism and really manage the selfishness, that's an inherent problem in that system, you can get to a definition that looks like this. Ethical egoism defines an act as morally right to the degree that it promotes genuine self-interest, and morally wrong to the degree that destroys a genuine self-interest. It's about degree, okay? This is a theory about making predictions about what is right and what is wrong. And if you're sitting here in the present, you look in the future, all you do is acting in direction that will promote what you think to be the right way. It's a very practical theory. You don't have an absolute truth, but I can look at myself in the long run. Okay. Am I taking more than my fair share? No. Okay. Am I injuring myself? No. Then I'm doing the right thing. Let me continue to pursue. Let me continue to go forward. Very practical theory, very pragmatic theory on ethical egoism. This theory is alive and well in America. Corporations around the world as well, wherever they have corporations like we have in America, it's the same talk. It's the same kind of thing. Okay. Corporations are like living people. Corporations have a moral principle. It's called ethical egoism. Okay, the company acts for its interests. It's not supposed to be selfish and cheat the customers and cheat the employees. When it does that, at least in America, the government comes in and try to control it. They are giant, they are powerful, but that's what's going on there. Okay, because if you're hurting the citizens, then you're not doing the right thing. If you're overworking your employees, underpaying it, you're not doing the right. You're hurting a lot of members of the community there. Okay, so the government will eventually be called to come in. Okay, and then there's a cold court battle. A lot of this is going on, but to say that the company's job is to give the company's real job is to provide employment for the employee. That's socialism. That's a different kind of nation. We are a capitalist society. Okay, so the corporation have the right to seek profit, but not at the cost or detriment of the employees, you could say, or the citizenship. So what I'm saying is that this theory is alive in America. Okay, and so the question is, can it be applied individually? The answer is yes, it can be applied individually. You must manage the stress. In utilitarianism, John Stuart Mill, that can be applied too, but it's excessive is giving too much. You have to manage the selflessness. You put others first, but are you harming yourself in doing that? These two are mirrors of each other. The Mill's theory and ethical egoism. This concludes my analysis of these theories. Okay, it concludes my analysis of these theories. We looked at all of them. Now I want to go and look at all the theories relative to applied ethics, apply them all together. So I recommend you look at this series look at all the theories again because I want to apply them in then my next move here. Okay, I want to look at through the doors of applications.